All right, let's talk about a part of English grammar that can be a real headache, especially if you're coming from Spanish. I'm talking about indefinite pronouns. Today, we're going to demystify them and give you a simple system you can actually use.
You've been there, right? You're talking and you just pause. Should I say somebody or anybody, nothing or anything? Trust me, you are not alone. It's one of the most common mix-ups, but the logic behind it is actually way simpler than you think.
So, what are these things, really? Well, at their core, indefinite pronouns are just the words we use when we're not being specific. Think about it. When you say someone or everywhere, you're not pointing to one particular person or a single spot on a map. You're being general. You're being indefinite. Now, you could just try to memorize a giant list of these words, but honestly, that's not the best way to do it. Instead, we're going to learn a smarter way. We're going to group them into these logical families. This right here is the key to mastering them for good. Look, the goal here is not to cram your brain with a long, boring list. It's to learn the system behind the words. Once you see this simple pattern, a system that's built on just a few prefixes, you'll pretty much intuitively know which word to use. It'll just click. Okay, let's start with the people family. Just look at the pattern. You see those prefixes? Some, any, no, and every? You just tack on body or one to talk about a person. So some becomes somebody, no becomes nobody. It's a simple, repeatable little formula, and you're about to see it again. And here we go, with the things family. See, it's the exact same system. We're taking those same prefixes, some, any, no, every, and this time we're just adding the word thing. So you get something, anything, nothing. The pattern is perfectly consistent. No tricks. And to complete the whole system, let's look at the places family. You probably guessed it, same prefixes, this time with the word where. Somewhere, nowhere, everywhere. So that's it. People, things, and places, they all follow the same simple logical pattern. That's the core system you need to know. Now, of course, you will see other words out there, like all, each, and several. They work in a similar way. But that some, any, no, and every system we just walked through, that's your foundation. That's going to cover the vast majority of situations you'll ever run into. All right, let's move on to the single most important grammar rule you need for these pronouns. Seriously, if you remember one thing, make it this. I call it the golden rule. Okay, this is the part that trips almost everyone up. A word like everybody feels plural, doesn't it? I mean, it refers to a lot of people. But in English grammar, we treat it as a single unit, as one group. And because it's treated as singular, it needs a singular verb. Just look at this example. We don't say everybody loved chocolate. We say everybody loves chocolate. You can hear that S on the end of the verb. Same thing with someone is here, not someone are here. Getting this one rule right will instantly make your English sound so much more natural. Okay, so remember that whole somebody versus anybody problem we talked about at the beginning? Let's solve it right now. The choice between them really just depends on the kind of sentence you're making. Here's the deal, and it's actually pretty simple. You use the words that start with some, like somebody or something, when you're making a positive affirmative statement. And you use the words that start with any, like anybody or anything, for negative sentences and for questions. For instance, here's a basic positive statement. There is something on the floor. It's an affirmative sentence, so we use something. Simple enough, right? But if we make that sentence negative by adding isn't, we absolutely have to switch to an any word. There isn't anybody home. You would never say there isn't somebody home. That switch is so important. So that brings us to the no words, like nobody and nothing. Now these guys are a bit special. They have the negative idea baked right into them. And because of that, you have to use them with a positive verb. If you don't, you'll make a really common mistake, the double negative. Check this out. The correct way to say it is nobody wants to work today. The no is already inside the word nobody, so the verb wants stays positive. Saying nobody doesn't want to work is like having two negatives fighting each other, and in standard English, that's a no-go. Fantastic. You have the system, you have the rules, you're pretty much there. So let's just finish up with two final pro tips that'll really help you polish things off and sound even more fluent. So we're going to cover two super common situations. First, what happens when you need to refer back to a word, like somebody, later in a sentence? And second, how do you show that something belongs to an indefinite person? Let's break it down.
Okay, so this one can feel a little weird at first. We just learned that somebody is singular, but when we refer back to that person, it's now really common to use the plural pronouns they and their. It's just a modern quirk of English that avoids having to say he or she all the time, and it sounds way more natural and inclusive.
And our final tip is the easiest one of all. If you want to show that something belongs to one of these indefinite people, you just add an apostrophe S. That's it, just like you would with a regular name. So you can ask, is this anyone's seat? Or say, it must be somebody's lucky day. Simple as that.
So, there you have it. You've gone way beyond just memorizing a list. You know the system of families, you know the golden rule of using singular verbs, and you know exactly when to use some, any, and no words. So the question is, now that you know the system, is there anything stopping you?